All right. So tonight we are talking about intuitive eating. I'm very passionate about this topic, so I'm really excited. And I will try to keep it within 15 to 20 minutes. So let's jump right in. Oh, okay. So just to start off a little bit about my story and a little bit about my background. So I included this picture in the top left corner. This is me when I'm about 11 years old, and this is one of the first times that I really started getting self-conscious about my body and conscious about what I was eating and feeling the pressure of society to lose weight. And I have this memory, I don't know if it was being told to me or someone was saying it about themselves, but essentially the idea was if you could just lose 10 pounds, you would look great. And this stuck in my head for years and years and years that I needed to lose 10 pounds. And anytime I ate anything with sugar, I felt super guilty about it. And I carried this for years and years. And then in high school, I tried my first diet and it was super restrictive. I cut out sugar, I cut out grains, I cut out dairy, like just over the top. I'm the kind of person that I'm very much like all or nothing. And I had tried in the past, like cut out sugar, and I had never been successful. And so I was like, okay, this time I'm going to do it. And I look back at pictures from this time, like this picture of me in the bottom left corner, or like the one at the gym, and I just like look back and think I was so tired and I had no energy and I have these bags under my eyes and I was not healthy. But I was losing weight and I was getting compliments. So it was exciting because I lost weight for the first time and I finally was successful at a diet. And I downloaded my Fitness Pal, and this app was telling me if I wanted to lose weight, I needed to eat 1,200 calories. And I had no knowledge of nutrition. I didn't know anything. I was like 17 or 18 years old. And so I felt like I was really cool if I could eat 1,000 calories a day. And now looking back at that, that just like breaks my heart. And also is like, wow, those are the caloric needs of a literal toddler, not a young woman who was exercising, going to the gym, had dance classes. Like I did not have energy and I stopped having a period. And those should have been huge red flags for me. And at the time, I just was like, it's great. I look great. I'm losing weight. And, but I was cold all the time. I was tired all the time. I had no energy. And I convinced myself that there was something really wrong with me because I tried to donate blood and I couldn't because my pulse was too low. And so I went to the doctor and they were like, wow, you have lost a lot of weight. I lost about 20 pounds. Since the last time I had been to the doctor and they were really concerned. And I was like, oh, don't worry. Like it was on purpose. Like, it's a good thing that I lost all this weight. But the doctor was so concerned about all my symptoms and how much weight I had lost that he was like, I don't want to scare you, but I think you should get x-rays to check to see if you have cancer. I was like, what? But it was, when I got x-rayed, no cancer. It was literally just symptoms of rapid weight loss. Like my body was like shutting down. Like, what are you doing? And very quickly after I had stopped dieting, I went in the opposite direction where I had been severely restricting. Then I was like over, like, if you can see, I included this little screenshot from my fitness pal. Like I was eating like over 3,000, close to 4,000 calories and like just went from one extreme to the other. And that's what happens when we diet, when we restrict, that we feel deprived. And then I just fell out of control for years. And I really struggled for a long time because in the back of my mind, I was like, okay, I'm going to go on another diet. I'm going to go on another diet. So I need to hurry and eat all of these foods that are going to be restricted. And it was just a miserable time in my life because I felt really down on myself, that I felt like I had no self-control, and um, that this eating just fell out of control and I would eat in secret and it was just like an insane amount. And then where I had originally started exercising because I loved it and I just enjoyed going to dance class or soccer, or I started doing CrossFit and I really enjoyed it just for the sake of moving my body. But then it turned into this like, I need to use exercise to burn off calories and I need to use exercise as punishment for the foods that I have eaten that are forbidden because, now that I'm not following a diet, I'm just eating out of control. And I think a lot of people have similar experiences to this. But fast forward, I go to college, I start learning actually the science of nutrition and healing and learning about intuitive eating. And I get back into the state of enjoying movement just for the sake of moving. I included this picture. My mom and I like to do bike rides together, just for fun, not to burn calories, not to punish myself. I love hiking. I love just, it's incredible what our bodies can do, what we can accomplish. And I actually really enjoyed the fact that my body could grow a baby, and that was really exciting to me. However, postpartum is a struggle and it's very humbling. And, some of those thoughts start to creep back in of like, oh, maybe I should go on another diet. Maybe, I need to cut this and that out to lose the baby weight. But luckily, I've done a lot of work in healing and I have been able to lose the baby weight without focusing on weight loss. And I think that's the only reason why it's been successful is that I have not made weight loss a goal, that I've focused just on intuitive eating. And now I can enjoy any foods without feeling any guilt and enjoy moving my body for the sake of moving. So I know that was kind of a lot, but hopefully some context does help, just where I'm coming from. And let's jump right in. So, what is intuitive eating? It is a self-care eating framework which integrates instinct, emotion, and rational thought, and was created by two dietitians, Evelyn Tribole and Elise Resch, in 1995. Intuitive eating is a weight-inclusive, evidence-based model with a validated assessment scale and over 100 studies to date. So this is legit. It's science-backed. It is not a weight loss method, but rather a way to heal your relationship with food and to really be in tune with our bodies. And our bodies are incredible, and we were born knowing exactly what our bodies needed and how much it needs. If you think about a baby, no one has to tell an infant when they're hungry and when they're full. They just know. And they grow exactly how they need to when their mothers respond to those cues. And so we are all born with the innate knowledge. Our bodies know when we're hungry and when we're full. And as we grow up, we learn or sort of unlearn those cues that we were born with. And so intuitive eating, it includes 10 principles that help you become more in tune. Like I'm saying, just more in tune with your body, those physical sensations to meet both of your biological and psychological needs, right? It's not just knowledge. If it was simply just knowledge, no one would have any issues with weight or eating. If it was just as simple as calories in, calories out, then no one would be overweight, right? But there is this emotional, psychological aspect to eating. And the way that you can achieve this attunement is by removing obstacles and disruptions that come from the mind, that come from society, that come from learned behaviors. And so the first principle is to reject the diet mentality. And so, oh, sorry, I don't know what happened there. Let me get back. There we go. So you need to just throw out anything or unfollow anyone on social media that offers you false hope that food restriction or dieting will grant all of your wishes for a better life, because diets don't work. So don't be angry with yourself. Get angry at diet culture and all the lies that it has told you about being a failure. If you allow even one small hope to linger that a new and better diet might be lurking around the corner, it will prevent you from being free to rediscover intuitive eating. So you have to start here. If you have any intention of following very strict rules, or that, the next fad diet is going to be your solution, you need to just stay on this step until you can really reject any of that. And then you can move on to step 2, which is honor your hunger. So you need to honor the first signal of hunger so that your body can trust that you will react to the signals that it's sending. Because if you ignore and if you push off the signals that your body's trying to send you, it's going to stop sending those signals. And so, if you've gotten into the habit of ignoring hunger or you've dieted before, you might not be as in tune with those hunger cues or those signals. And so making sure that you do the work to pay attention to, and it's not just the rumbling stomach, it can be fatigue, it can be brain fog, it can be irritability, poor concentration. There's so many ways that your body tells you, hey, I need food, I need energy. And when you keep yourself fed, then you won't overeat. If you are waiting until you are starving to eat, it's not a lack of willpower when you overeat. It is literally your primal drive to help you stay alive. Principle 3 is to make peace with food. So you need to give yourself unconditional permission to eat. And that means there are no foods that are off limit. So if you tell yourself that you can't or shouldn't have a particular food or even a whole food group, it can lead to intense feelings of deprivation, uncontrollable cravings, and binging. And then, after thinking, I shouldn't, I can't, when you finally give in to that forbidden food, it will be so intense that you will probably overeat and feel very guilty about it. And if you've dieted, if you've done the yo-yo dieting thing where you restrict, binge, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Principle number 4 is to challenge the food police. And this is that voice in your head that is enforcing all of these rules that you've learned from all the different diets that you've tried, whether that's carbs are bad, you need to eat low fat everything, or you can't eat past 6 p.m. Whatever those rules are, whatever that voice is saying, you need to say no, get rid of that voice and any negativity. And also to stop thinking about foods as good or bad, or attaching moral value to yourself on the choices that you make when it comes to food. You are not a bad person if you eat a piece of cake, and you're not good if you eat a salad. There shouldn't be any sort of guilt. Unless you stole the food, you do not need to feel any guilt about any food that you're eating. Guilt free is just kind of funny because guilt is not an ingredient. Every single food is guilt free. No food has guilt in it. So you don't need to feel guilty about anything that you eat. Principle 5 is to discover the satisfaction factor. So in our pursuit of losing weight, we often overlook one of the most basic gifts of existence, the pleasure and satisfaction that can be found in the eating experience. When you eat what you really want in an environment that is inviting and conducive, the pleasure will be powerful force in helping you feel satisfied and content. You'll eat the right amount of food and feel physically and emotionally satisfied. So if you've ever had a particular craving for, let's say, a dessert, but you think, oh, I should eat a piece of fruit instead, or I should eat this or that. And so, you're craving a brownie, but you think, okay, I'm going to eat an apple, and you eat an apple, but your craving is not satisfied. And so then you think, okay, I'm going to eat a granola bar, but you're still craving the brownie. Okay, I'm going to, and then you end up eating the brownie in the end. And so it would have been better if you just ate the initial craving rather than trying to not satisfy what you were really craving. And there's nothing wrong with, eating what you actually want to eat. 6, feel your fullness. So just as you're going to honor your hunger, you're also going to honor when you are full. So listen to your body for signals that you're no longer hungry and are comfortably full. We don't want to be over the top uncomfortably full, but so sometimes that means slowing down, pausing in the middle of your meal and checking in with yourself. How does the food taste? How full am I? Am I eating because there's still food on the plate and I've been taught that I need to finish my plate, or am I still hungry? And sometimes you finish the whole plate and you're still hungry and you can go back for seconds, and that's totally great. But sometimes, you're eating a meal and you just don't even recognize that you're full. And so there is an aspect of mindfulness and slowing down and checking in and stopping when we're satisfied. Principle 7 is to cope with your emotions with kindness. So find ways to comfort, nurture, and resolve your root causes that has, ways to cope that don't involve food. And so anxiety, loneliness, boredom, and anger are emotions that we all experience in life, and food will not fix any of these feelings. It may comfort you for the short term, distract from the pain, or even numb you, but food will not solve problems. You'll ultimately have to deal with the source of the emotion as well as the discomfort. If you're using food emotionally to cope, right? You're going to have to deal with the emotion still, but then also you're probably going to be uncomfortable because of eating past your fullness. Principle 8 is to respect your body, to accept your genetics, to recognize that a person with a shoe size of 8 would not expect to squeeze into a size 6. And so it is equally futile and uncomfortable to have a similar expectation about body size. Bodies come in all shapes and sizes. We're not all meant to look the same. We're different heights, we're different sizes, and that's awesome and it's great. And we can respect our bodies so we can feel better about who we are and to not just always be feeling bad about ourselves. And something that I like to think about is that if every single person on the planet followed the exact same meal plan and the exact same exercise routine, our bodies would still look different. That's just the way it's meant to be, and that's okay, and there's nothing wrong with that. And your body deserves dignity. So respect your body. Principle 9 is to feel the difference when it comes to movement, to not use exercise as a punishment, but to just get active and to feel the difference and shift your focus from how it feels to move your body rather than the calorie burning effect of exercise. If you are exercising simply to burn calories or to look a certain way, it is going to be really hard to stick to a routine, and it's hard to use that as motivation all the time. And so if you really pay attention to how you feel mentally, emotionally, and physically when you exercise, that is so much more inspiring and helps you stay more consistent when it comes to movement. And the last principle, principle 10, is to honor your health with gentle nutrition. So after you've gone through all the other principles, yes, it is important to know what our body needs and to take care of it. And so make food choices that honor your well-being, but also pay attention to your taste buds and your culture while paying attention to how your body feels. And you don't have to eat perfectly to be healthy. There is no such thing as a perfect diet, and you will not suddenly get a nutrient deficiency from one snack, one meal, or one day of eating. It's what you eat consistently over time that matters. And so, yes, it's important to make sure we're getting fruits and vegetables. And if you really pay attention to how your body feels, if you were to just eat chips and ice cream and donuts all day for days and days, that would not feel good. Um, you would, I mean, if you want to try it, like that's the thing about intuitive eating is you really pay attention. Like if I were to just eat chips and cake and ice cream, like my body would maybe feel okay for like a day, but then I would start to crave vegetables. And I think some people have this fear of if I, sorry, if I just eat whatever I want whenever I want, then I'm just going to eat junk food all the time. No, like if you really did, like you wouldn't feel great. And if you think about it, like when you've been on vacation for a long time, you just start to crave a home cooked meal and you just want to be home and eat a salad and eat fruits and vegetables because it feels good. And if you eat too much of anything, it's not going to feel good. And so you can really trust your body to help you know what helps it feel its best. And so that's, wrapping up, those are all of the principles of intuitive eating. And then I just had a few notes. So this is where knowledge comes in. And so there's this part of being in tune with our body, but also there's so much evidence and knowledge out there. And so you can pair the two together where I'm going to listen to my body and I'm going to eat what I want and I'm going to pay attention when I'm hungry. But I'm also going to use some knowledge to help me make decisions of, okay, how do I build a meal? I know that I need protein. I need fruits and vegetables. I need macros and I need micronutrients for my body to function optimally. And I'm not gonna feel guilty if every single meal doesn't look exactly perfect. That's where self-compassion comes in. But I also am going to use the information that I have to make sure that I'm focusing on nutrient-dense foods that ultimately help me feel better and give me sustained energy. And then recognizing that we each have different dietary needs in different phases of our life. Um, pregnancy, your needs are going to be a little bit different than when you are not pregnant, or when you're breastfeeding versus not breastfeeding, or if you're going to the gym and you're lifting weights for an hour every day, you're going to need more protein. Or if you are a runner and you're running miles and miles and miles, you're going to need more carbohydrates. And so it's important to know, there's certain things that your body needs, and then you can use, okay, out of all of these options that I have, what's going to really satisfy me, what's going to taste good, and what's my preference. And so you can kind of marry these two together with intuitive eating with also knowledge. And that's how I live. And it's incredible. I don't feel like I have to cheat on my diet because I'm not on a diet. I don't have to eat differently during the week versus on the weekends. I just, if I want a sweet treat every day, that's it. I just have one, and I'm not binging like I used to because there's no restriction. I know that I can have it. It's going to still be there tomorrow. I'm not going to go on another diet. And my body knows that at this point. And so I don't have to binge because it's not going to be taken away from me. And then we have had people in the past ask for recipes or swaps. And so here's just a quick note about swaps that you can make in recipes. And again, I don't want this to be like a rule that you have to follow because, we're getting rid of rules with intuitive eating, but just ways that you can increase your health in a gentle way that's sustainable. And so if there's anything white bread, white rice, white pasta, it's okay to have those if you want, but every once in a while, swap for whole wheat bread, whole wheat pasta, whole grains. Um, Especially if you are not hitting your fiber needs, this is a really easy way to increase your fiber is to focus on whole grains. Another option is to swap sour cream for Greek yogurt. That can increase the protein. If you're cooking your eggs in butter, maybe try cooking them in olive oil. If you like fried foods, try having them cooked in an air fryer or baking them instead to decrease the amount of oil. If you are drinking lots of fruit juice, try to swap that for whole fruit. There are some recipes that I've made before that called for heavy cream, and I don't always have heavy cream in my fridge. Actually, I very rarely do. And so I've swapped it for whole milk or even 2% milk, and that decreases the amount of saturated fat. And then ways that you can add a little bit more nutrition is try adding cottage cheese into a pasta sauce, or add cottage cheese into your scrambled eggs, or adding seeds to baked goods or on top of your yogurt is a great way to increase fiber. Adding nut butter, adding a little bit of peanut butter or almond butter is going to add some protein and add some healthy fats and fiber. So add that in your oatmeal, add that to your pancakes, add that on your yogurt bowl, whatever it is. And then there's always ways to add more vegetables into different meals, whether that's in your eggs, make it a veggie omelet, or whether that's pasta, chop up some peppers and carrots and put that in your pasta, or, get creative with it. And then add fruit wherever you can, add it to your yogurt, add it to your oatmeal, add it to a smoothie, whatever it is. There's lots of ways to add more nutrient dense foods. But that is all I have for the presentation. So I have asked Marcy to do some coaching. So I'm going to invite Marcy to unmute, and we'll just have a little one-on-one session here. And then if you guys have any questions about anything I've talked about, please write them down, put them in the chat, and I will get to your questions. So, Marcy.
Hi.
Thank you for being willing.
No problem.
So I want to ask you, when it comes to nutrition, what do you feel like is your biggest challenge or concern?
Um, I feel like I was actually thinking about this a lot today. My two biggest challenges and concerns, um, okay, maybe it's three. I don't know. I'll say it and you can divide it how you want. So first off, I mean, you know this about me, but I used to be a very picky eater, and I'm mostly not I'm not as picky anymore, but there's still a few humps that I'm getting over with that. And so like I really want to be eating healthy, but I have I just still am learning to like fruits and vegetables. And I'm making a lot of progress with that. But so like there's number one is I'm still just trying to figure out how to eat more fruits and vegetables and maybe be able to trust them because um I feel like I place a lot of priority when I eat on taste and texture. Um, and fruits and vegetables, as good as they are not always, it's always hit or miss. You know, you might get a really good blueberry, you might get a really bad blueberry. I can say with my frozen pizzas or donuts, I rarely ever am like, wow, that was a bad donut. You know, like it every time. And then the other thing that I've been struggling with lately is just I used to be really good at like making sure I hit breakfast, lunch, and dinner every day. And I mean, I snacked plenty too, but like I was really good at like my life just kind of revolved about around eating and not in a bad way, but just like I knew when I was hungry and I wanted to eat and I made sure I ate. I was so scared of going hungry. And then nowadays I feel like I am just constantly skipping meals because I'm like, it's fine, I'll eat later, I'll eat later. And so I'm eating breakfast around like 2. And I can tell my body like that's just not how I've always been. And I realize like our bodies can change, but like I feel like I know my body enough to be like, oh, like I should be eating, but I'm just slowly being like, oh, I can eat later. I'll eat later. I'll eat later. And I think my body does better when I eat breakfast and lunch and dinner. So kind of need help with all of those.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. And let me just make sure I heard everything and you can correct me if I got anything wrong. But you're saying that you consider yourself to be a picky eater and have a hard time with fruits and vegetables, but you want to increase the amount of fruits and vegetables that you're eating. And then with like you used to eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner regularly, but now it's maybe not, you're not having those regular meal times.
And I don't like
Okay.
realize kind of like what you were talking about, but like I don't once I realize I'm hungry, like I'm like, oh, I should have eaten hours ago because now I'm starving and I need something now, which is
Hmm.
never usually anything healthy or just anything good in general. You know, it's just a frantic, like what gets my blood sugar back up.
Yeah. Yeah. And our bodies are really good about making sure that we do feed ourselves. So if we go too long, our body's gonna be like, hey, please feed me. And then it's like, I don't know when I'm gonna get the chance to eat again. And so I just need to eat as much as I can as quickly as I can. And so is it all right if I give you some ideas and some recommendations?
Love that.
Awesome. So you're exactly right. Like it is really important to eat like regular meals and to eat throughout the day. And it sounds like, you recognize that you maybe are not functioning as optimally as you could because you haven't been eating as regularly as you used to. And so, um, I know just because I know you, I know that you have a 1 year old and that sometimes when you're taking care of a child, it can distract you and you're so focused on meeting their needs and feeding them that it can be easy to kind of neglect ourselves and to just, oh, I'll eat later, I'll figure it out, or it's like hard to get a minute to yourself. Um, but like you're saying, like you will feel so much better if you do prioritize making sure that you're getting breakfast earlier in the day. And maybe you're not hungry like right when you wake up, but to try and eat something within an hour of waking up will really help you to have more energy. It will help you to be able to meet your daughter's needs a little bit better because you're taking care of yourself. And so something that can be helpful is prepping something the night before.
Mm.
And so, like, whether that's overnight oats or even just like making sure you have something in the fridge that you can grab quick, or, you know, having something that you're looking forward to, something that is enjoyable so that you're excited to eat. And sometimes for some people, it is really helpful to prep the night before, um, or to just have like a yogurt container that you can just grab out of the fridge or whatever it is. But making sure that when you do eat that it does have protein, it does have fat, and it does have carbohydrates because making sure you have all three macronutrients is going to help you have sustained energy throughout the day. And so what are like some breakfast foods that you like or typically eat?
Recently when I have been making breakfast, I do eggs with like onions and bell peppers and bacon bits and cheese. Um, Cheerios, as always. I love my specifically Cheerios, but cold cereal. I used to be on a really big thing with yogurt, and then I kind of got tired of it, but I kind of want to try it again just because like I know it does have like I mean it's Greek yogurt, but like it has the protein and it's so much easier to add fruit and stuff to it. Um, but yeah, that's kind of been it lately.
Yeah. Well, I love that you like to have vegetables in your eggs. It's a great way to get veggies in. And so you've got the protein from the eggs, you've got your vegetables, and then and I'm assuming you're cooking the eggs in some sort of like oil or butter or something, so you've got some fat there. Um, what I see lacking there is carbohydrates. And so, you could have a bowl of Cheerios on the side of that, or it could be a slice of toast, or a piece of fruit. And that will be a really like balanced meal. With like the Cheerios, milk, you're going to get a little bit of protein, you're going to get, some carbs from the Cheerios, and then, maybe have a spoonful of peanut butter with it, or a handful of nuts, or some fruit on the side. And when it comes to like picking fruits and vegetables, I'm assuming there's ones that you feel like are more safe that you tend to go for that you like. And that's great. Like it's awesome to stick with those ones that you like. Um, but I'm trying to think like, well, do you have any ideas for ways that you can increase your fruit and vegetable intake? Because I know that's something that you want to work on.
Some things I've looked into, honestly, this sounds so silly, but I like looked up like toddler safe recipes where they do like the hidden veggies and pasta sauce and stuff just for the sake of me like trying to get more in there. And sometimes it's not even that I like have moments where I'm like, oh, I don't like anything, but just I don't feel like I do sometimes get tired of the fact that there's only a few that I like. So sometimes I'm like, man, like how do I like spice this up? Um, Another thing I've been trying, we haven't been doing so good at it, but my husband and I were doing these like around the world date nights where we, made different food from different countries and stuff, which did kind of mean there were times where I was like, okay, like this is a little scary for me, but this dish that we're making has mostly vegetables, so we're gonna have to try it. And I probably start doing that again because that was really good at getting me to eat more, and especially if I like more vegetables specifically, and especially if I'm the one making it, then I tend to eat more. Like I don't know, I just feel more comfortable with it if I'm the one that's made it. So maybe I can do a better job too of just like finding recipes that I can make that have more vegetables and maybe pairing them with condiments that I like.
Yeah, no, those are like really great ideas. And it sounds like you know what works for you and you have a good idea of things that you can try. It's just maybe a little bit of like having someone to hold you accountable or like, and for a lot of people that's what it is just having someone that can like check in with them like, "Hey, did you try a new recipe? Did you add some more vegetables?" Or even just like getting recipes. Like I know that I had made a curry a few weeks ago and you asked for the recipe, and I think that you made it. And like, how was that? Did you like it?
It was good. It was super good.
And
And
so,
that was helpful to like people like the times that you have posted stuff on your page where I can be like, oh, like that looks good. And I do want to try that.
yeah. So, yeah, maybe just like asking more like people that you know for recipes, or, it's always fun to swap recipes with people. But yeah, trying new things. And then, honestly, like I think it's genius to look up like the toddler hack, like to hide vegetables in recipes. Like that's genius. Like why is it's limited to just toddlers? It can be for everyone. Like we could all use more vegetables and ways to include more vegetables. Another thought that I had was I recently hosted a plant diversity challenge with some of my clients, and I like made a list of like pretty much every single common fruit and vegetable, and just like seeing it written out of like, wow, there are so many options and things that I've never tried before. And I made it a point to try a couple of new fruits and vegetables that I had never tried before. And it was a little bit intimidating, even for me, who I love fruits and vegetables and I feel like I eat a pretty large variety, but like to recognize that there's more and to um, And so like if that would be helpful, I can send you that list and to just like have a reference sheet of like, oh, I've never had turnips before. Maybe I'll like them, maybe I won't. And if you don't like it, that's the thing about intuitive eating is I think there's this quote in the book that's like, if you don't love it, don't eat it. And if you do love it, savor it. And so it's like you don't have to
Yeah.
force yourself to eat foods that you don't enjoy. Like it shouldn't be a chore, it shouldn't be miserable, but there are ways to make vegetables more enjoyable. If that means adding butter and salt and pepper, that's great. I love it. It's still a healthy choice because you're getting more vegetables in.
Mhm.
If that means dipping your carrots in ranch or hummus, then great. You're eating carrots. I love it. Like it's not this all or nothing.
Yeah.
Um, but anyway, we are at 8:45, so I do kind of want to open it up to everyone. And Marcy, if you do have more questions, feel free to keep asking. But if there's anyone else on the call who wants to chime in or ask any questions, I want to open that up to the audience.
I wondered if you want to talk about intermittent fasting for a little bit.
Yeah. Do you have anything specific or just in general?
More in general, a couple of books I've listened to recently or conversations I've had emphasize intermittent fasting quite a bit. The
Mm.
one guy I was just listening to, he only eats once a day now, and I thought that was kind of, I don't know, that's a lot. Not a lot of food. I mean, that's too much fasting. You know what I mean?
A
So
bit extreme.
yeah, extreme. That's probably the right word. So I was wondering what you wanted to talk about because you mentioned stay away from the diets essentially, like don't consider it a diet, but a lot of people might consider intermittent fasting as type of diet. I like the
Yeah.
idea of just being intuitive and listening to your body, but talk to us from your point of view about intermittent fasting.
Yeah. So if there are people who want to try intermittent fasting, like that's something I could guide them through and help them do in a safer way. Because if people want to try things out, like I'm all about meeting them where they're at. I personally wouldn't like recommend it to someone, but if they're curious about it, like there are ways there, if it's a wider eating window that is almost intuitive. I think it is good to like let our bodies fast overnight for sure. Um, but I don't think there needs to be a cutoff. Like I need to stop eating at 6 p.m. and I can't eat until noon. Like for me, that doesn't work. It doesn't work for me because I I know when I'm hungry, and if I don't eat when I'm hungry, I am hangry and I am like just irritable and snappy and I don't have energy to do all the things I want to do. And so if there's someone who's like trying to stick to an eating window and they are physically like not doing well, then I would say, let's broaden that window. And so I think something more like a 12-hour fast, like let's say you stop eating around 7:30 p.m. and then you wake up around 7 a.m. and eat at 7:30 a.m. Like that seems more natural in a way that you could do it more intuitively. Um, because I mean that's sometimes just what happens naturally. I eat dinner at 6:30 p.m. or whatever, and then I go to sleep and I wake up at 7. Like I'm not intentionally trying to fast for all those hours, but that is an eating window that has been presented as like intermittent fasting. And so I would say, if that's something you want to try, I would stick for a bigger window. As far as like regulating blood sugar, it just makes sense for us to eat 3 meals and sometimes snacks in between meals to eat regularly throughout the day. When I had my internship in the hospital, a lot of people who had type 2 diabetes that I talked to were eating like one meal a day. And that is for them, it's like, it's so not helpful for their blood sugar levels. And, they think, well, I'm hardly eating anything, but it's like, yeah, that's the problem. Like you need to be eating at regular intervals throughout the day. Um, and so like I said, like if you ignore your hunger, right, you might just think, oh, well, I'm just not hungry. I'm not hungry when I wake up. Well, yeah, if you've been skipping breakfast for years, you're not going to be hungry when you wake up. But when you start introducing breakfast back in and you've had breakfast every day for a couple weeks, if you skip breakfast, your body's going to be like, hey, I liked that. We should go back to doing that. I'm actually really hungry. Um, so long story short, I don't necessarily recommend intermittent fasting. But out of like all the diets out there, I would say it's on the less harmful side because it doesn't prescribe like a specific amount of calories or it doesn't restrict specific food groups. Um, but it doesn't consider people's personal lives. When I was a senior in high school, I had dance class that went until 8:30 p.m., but I had read on the internet that I should stop eating at 6 p.m. And so I would stop eating at 6 p.m. and then I'd get done with dance class at 8:30 and go home and go to bed. And no wonder I stopped having a period. Like I was not fueling my body and I was overworking it. I was going to the gym every day. I was dancing 6 hours a week. Like your body will send signals that something's not right. Um, anyway, does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you. That was good.
Any other questions, whether it's about intuitive eating or something else?
I have one real quick. Is there like I don't know if there's like an exhaustive list, but I know earlier you were talking about like some of the issues being like it's not necessarily the rumbling stomach, it's also the brain fog or irritability. Is there like a list of those? Because that suddenly I'm like, oh, like maybe my body has been telling me I'm hungry, and
Yeah.
I think it's something different.
Yeah. I'm sure if you just like looked it up on the internet, you could find a pretty good list. But like just off the top of my head, like yeah, some of the things that I like difficulty concentrating, low energy, but yeah, like mood, irritability, um, and sometimes it is like a physical sensation in your stomach, feeling faint. Uh, those are the ones that I can think of. I think that's like, kind of the main general ones, but there might be a couple of other little ones. But the more you pay attention, like the more you'll recognize that your body wants to let you know, like when you're hungry. So yeah, good question.
I have a question. Um, so you mentioned like the when your internship in the hospital when like the diabetic was he was only eating a meal a day. So what are some good ways to like if you go to the doctor or say or and they tell you these like specific kind of health problem like they say oh you need to like lower your cholesterol or like you have diabetes and it needs to be managed. And so like when your brain starts like kind of like you're like oh shoot I need to like do all you know what I mean? And then so how do you kind of target those specific health goals and still like kind of keep the principles of intuitive eating and like kind of like bridge that gap if that makes sense when
Yeah.
it tells you that you know something like that.
Yeah. First and foremost, like if you do have type 1 diabetes, obviously that is very serious and needs to be managed with insulin and, you know, being aware of carbohydrates and, there's a lot that goes into that. And then um type 2 diabetes, maybe you're on insulin, maybe you're on medication. It is there are certain diagnoses where you do need to pay attention to certain uh like you have to pay attention to what you're putting into your body, or even like gestational diabetes or people who have Crohn's or ulcerative colitis or and I think about it kind of like as an allergy. Like, if you have an allergy to peanuts, you're never going to eat peanuts. You're going to avoid those and that's okay. If you have gestational diabetes, you need to eat consistent carbohydrates at your meals. And so it can feel a bit overwhelming. But there's still some freedom in any of those things. There's maybe like, you've got a lot of different options of different carbohydrates that you can have. But always like making sure that you don't become obsessive, I guess, is the way that I would say it is there's gonna be things that you do need to pay attention to, like women who are pregnant need more iron and they need more folate. And so if that means taking a supplement, then like that can help cover your bases, but also being aware of what foods have, those key nutrients that you need. And so like for me in my own life, like I'm going to the gym almost every day. I'm breastfeeding. And so I know that my protein needs are going to be a little bit higher. And so at each meal, okay, I need a protein source. So, I have flexibility of like what sounds good to me that has protein in it, but also like not beating myself up if there's one meal that is a little bit lower in protein. Like I know over the course of a week or a month, like if I'm doing pretty good, I don't have to, like I went to a party a couple weeks ago and we had waffles for dinner and like fruit and snacks, and like part of like the old me was like, oh my gosh, like there's no protein, like this is so bad, like and some of that like food police starts to come in, like oh, this is not a healthy meal. But sometimes fighting those negative thoughts of like, this is one meal in the grand scheme of how many meals over the course of a month or 2 months or a year, even like this one meal is not going to make or break my overall nutrition and my overall health. Whereas like I used to be stuck in this all or nothing mentality. And it was like, oh, I had a cookie. Okay, well, now I'm going to devour the entire kitchen and I'm going to eat all of the ice cream and I'm going to eat a whole box of cereal. And like where it just like starts to spiral. And so some of it is like the way you talk to yourself and, be gentle and kind to yourself and recognize it's not all or nothing. And, um, but yeah, so there's a way to do both to, what am I craving? What sounds good? And how can I honor that? But also, what do I need and how can I fit that in?
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Any other questions? We've got a few more minutes.
I have a thought or a question, and I'd like your thoughts on it. It seems to me that intuitive eating is being more emotionally aware of your relationship with food and being able to be honest with yourself on like what makes you tick or how you're feeling or or why you're eating, right? So it seems it's interesting. I've done a lot. I've done the intuitive or not the intuitive eating. I've done the fasting before and the counting of macros and um not not diet so much as like the carnivore and those things, but the things that allow me to have the foods. Um but I've always been an athlete and I've always fed myself like an athlete. And so when I eat like an athlete, that is well, I played college ball, so that was always upwards of 300 calories a day. Like that was just we were working out for 2 to 4 hours a day, and so I was burning that, and so it made most sense, right? So I guess coming from this like athlete mentality, I actually find that I love intermittent fasting because it gives me a boundary to stay in. But I guess I find myself also going, I wonder if I've always wanted to do more of the intuitive eating, but it seems to me like that I need to find the emotion or the feeling as to what's like making me feel like I have to devour the whole kitchen. Does that make sense? So this seems to be more of a like in tune with your emotional relationship with food. Would you say the same, or does that sound right?
Yeah, that's definitely a big aspect of it. And a thought that I had, well, also like the question that Claire asked, something that I did want to mention is that there are times and seasons where intuitive eating may not be like the right fit for someone. And it can work great for a lot of people, but like Claire was asking, like if there are certain diagnoses, it can be hard to just kind of like let someone loose and be like, just listen to your body. Because
Because
there's
then they'll eat the kitchen. That's
well, and
me.
like I mean, or it's like a pregnant woman feels sick and they don't want to eat anything, but you can't just say, "Well, you're not hungry, don't eat." Like that's not going to work. Like you need to be eating as much as you can, or someone who's recovering from an eating disorder. Like there are different phases and times where maybe you're not ready for intuitive eating or it's not a good fit for you. Or yeah, like maybe an athlete who needs to make sure they're eating more than. But there is very much like an emotional psychological aspect to it. Um, and for me, it's not like it clicked for me immediately because I had gone from this restriction to this. I mean, I was never diagnosed, but had a lot of symptoms of binge eating disorder, where it wasn't just like, I'm overeating. Like it was significant where I was like making myself sick with how much I was eating. Um, and so like intuitive eating like wasn't something that came quickly. Like it took a lot of unlearning. And a lot of it is trust with yourself, where if you've like broken that trust with yourself and you've thought, well, when I don't have these set rules, I'm out of control. And so I need rules. I need boundaries to keep me in line. And years and years and years of dieting or having rules for yourself, it can be really scary to let go of those. Um, and so, like, at first, it might feel like, if I just tell myself I can eat whatever I want whenever I want, like, I'm going to go crazy. And that's kind of a messy phase that you kind of have to go through to recognize that, like, to really just give yourself permission and to get rid of any judgmental thoughts, to get rid of any of like, oh, I'm such a bad person. You're not a bad person if you overeat. Like, there's nothing wrong with you. Um, but like, I had to go through that of like, I had to really trust my body again, that when I really listened to it, that it was safe to get rid of rules and occasionally there might be a day that I still like overeat a little bit, but I take it as a learning opportunity of, okay, how did that feel? Not great. So when I'm in this situation again, I don't have to eat as much. And like really learning from those experiences of like, I know when I eat too much, I don't feel good. I can't sleep well. Like my digestion is all messed up. Like a lot of it is like trial and error almost of just like learning, and part of it's emotional and part of it's physical. Like some people like do well with certain foods and don't do well with other foods. Like for some people it's dairy or but really it's like really about being in tune, I would say, and trusting yourself and your body.
I can see that. I can totally see that. Thank you.
Yeah. But I mean, like for some people, if having a boundary or some sort of like guidelines to follow, that can be helpful. And, like it, what works for one person is not going to work for the next person. And so it's very much like what works for you personally.
Well, and frankly, I mean, we all have to eat, right? That is part of our daily, like, no matter what you're gonna do, you gotta eat and figuring out what works for you, which diet, whatever it is, right? Ideally, it's a holistic diet that includes whole foods and all of the good stuff, but you have to find what works for you, right? And we are all different, so that is why there's so many different capacities um that we can all try. So I love that.
Yeah, and I did want to mention, I meant to put a picture in the presentation, but there is a book by the founders of intuitive eating. And it's called Intuitive Eating. And I think the newest edition is the fourth edition. So if you are interested in diving deeper into these topics, I would highly recommend reading or listening to the audiobook. Um, it's great. I've listened to it a couple of times, and it's got research, trials, it's got people's personal stories, and it really just dives a little bit deeper into each of these principles. So that's a great book. And then another book that I really love is called Anti-Diet by Christy Harrison. And that also dives deeper into like diet culture and how the term like obesity epidemic came to be. And it's really fascinating if you look at the science behind all of that. So some good books if you're interested in more.
Love that. Love that. Love that. Well, Lila, amazing job. That was good and informative. And Marcy and Lorraine, it was nice to meet you guys. Um, unless there's any questions, then we've kind of hit our time and I like to be prompt. So unless there's anything more, let me know. No? Well, awesome. We'll put this recording up on Circle. If you have interest in joining us on Circle, we'd love to have you. It's a place that we can swap recipes. Lila, I do think it would be awesome. You talked about a list of all the veggies. Will you post that on Circle as well? Because I think
Yeah,
that would
for
be
sure.
good for our community to have. And RSVP, I guess, for next week. Next week we're going to hear from Sarah, so that'll be awesome. Okay. Thanks for coming, you guys. You guys are the best. Have a great evening.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night. Good night.